We've got to talk again about Albo. He's in desperate strife as Prime Minister because this country faces a series of enormous challenges, as you know, a cost of living crisis, housing crisis, energy crisis, a threatening strategic environment, out of control immigration, social cohesion under threat, and we have a government and Prime Minister seemingly doing nothing to address any of this. As I've said before, Anthony Albanese looks and talks more like a spectator than a player, than a leader. And that's why the Prime Minister's tone-deaf purchase of a $4.3 million Copacabana beach house could be much more than a small slip-up in his political career. It could be a watershed moment, the moment when much of the population realises this bloke is not only out of touch, but has no clue about what he's supposed to be doing. I mean, already his colleagues are sick to death of having to answer questions about his real estate portfolio.
We all understand and acknowledge that he's entitled to have a personal life and to purchase property as he needs to do.
It's entirely a matter for the Prime Minister and his fiancée.
I think Australians want the government focused on providing more houses for them.
Yeah, we all know what they're thinking deep down. Something like, why, Albo? Why? Why couldn't you just wait? In this modern 24/7 social media age, the political cycles seem to be accelerated and the tide can turn against PMs very quickly. The wrong mistake at the wrong time can precipitate an inevitable decline. Think of Tony Abbott deciding to confer an Australian knighthood on the Queen's husband, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh.
Tony Abbott's judgment has been questioned this morning following his unusual decision to grant a knighthood to Prince Philip. Brisbane's Courier Mail is having some fun with it, stepping back in time, something the PM is being accused of doing. It is a jolly odd show, isn't it? The Daily Tally reflects the anger of his coalition colleagues who are said to be furious at not being consulted on the decision. And Melbourne's Herald Sun comes right up and calls it, as many say it, a royal stuff-up.
Yeah, in one fell swoop, Abbott lost a lot of authority. Much of the country started wondering where his head was at. And then there was Scott Morrison and his inexplicable decision to take an overseas holiday, and even worse, trying to do it on the quiet.
The Prime Minister has caved tonight, rushing back from Hawaii amid criticism for taking a holiday while Sydney burns. Scott Morrison expressed his deep regret for causing offence to the people who've lost homes and loved ones.
Scott Morrison saying he'll cut short a Hawaiian getaway, acknowledging his absence this week has caused some offence.
I deeply regret that, and so does Jenny. So I'll be getting back there as soon as I can, but, you know, I don't hold a hose, mate.
Yep, there was a fateful political moment right there. And now maybe Albo has had one of his own. He certainly didn't like questions on the issue today.
How do you respond to senior Labor sources who have likened the decision to Scott Morrison's Hawaii trip?
What I'm focused on is delivering more houses for Australians.
A number of Labor MPs have privately voiced concern about the decision to buy this house now. What do you say to them?
I'm focused on getting our help to buy legislation too.
His focus, this focus he keeps talking about seems to be all over the place. Look, this beach house issue is bad enough in its own right. It's just a dumb and insensitive move as a Prime Minister. Albanese at the moment gets to live in the taxpayer-funded lodge in Canberra as his main residence. Fair enough. And taxpayers also provide Kirribilli House on the harbour for when he's in Sydney. And Albo has also kept his own home, as you'd expect, in Sydney's inner west, but he's trying to offload a nearby investment property after evicting the tenant earlier this year. And then there's the $4.3 million beach house he's about to settle on. So that means that at the moment Albanese has rights over 5 properties, 2 courtesy of taxpayers and 3 of his own. And at any given time, 4 of these 5 properties are empty. Now, apparently he'll sell the investment property to help pay for the beach house, but he'll still be living in one of the 2 houses that go with his job, while the other 2, presumably, are empty. It's just not a good look in a housing crisis, and it's just so unnecessary. Surely all his Labor colleagues, especially the marginal seat holders, as I said last night, would prefer he left his beach house shopping until after the election. But while all this is bad enough, the important point is that this comes when the Prime Minister has been losing standing steadily all year. After being weak on China and pathetic on the nuclear issue back in June, I wrote that Albanese was losing authority, noting that his snide oppositionist politicking was seeing the authority of office shed from him like fur from a sick cat. But things only got worse. I mean, how many times has Albanese tried to duck responsibility for various issues?
I've been travelling in the car, so I haven't been advised about that. This is not my proposal. This is the Australian people's proposal. The Reserve Bank of Australia are an independent body and the government doesn't direct them on what to do. The Community Protection Board is, of course, a board that's independent of politicians. Of course, state bail schemes are run by the states.
Yeah, it was becoming so obvious and happening so often that I started playing this.
Albon says he's not responsible, not responsible. He can't answer for the wrong things he gets up to. He thinks is not responsible, not responsible.
Yeah, that little number really caught on, and good on Ray Hadley and the Robinson brothers for kicking it along too and giving us their version of it, because it's so apt. The song works because Albo makes it work, and things just keep going downhill for the Prime Minister. He's not been able to map out an agenda or demonstrate leadership. In September, I wrote that he was looking like an incredible shrinking Prime Minister, noting that when voters spot political hollowness, they can fall off quickly, like they did with Kevin Rudd. And I pointed out that slipping into minority government was not the worst fate threatening Labor. They could actually lose power after just one term. Yet since then, the decline has continued. The weakness we've seen over the Middle East and anti-Semitism at home, the cost of living, housing and energy crises only getting worse, and the government having no plans to tackle the underlying problems like government spending or over-regulation of the labour market and the ridiculous rush to renewables and the uncontrolled immigration. Then there's been the embarrassing attempts to pretend he's doing something.
You will have seen it. A product comes out in new packaging. It's the same price as before, but the box feels a little bit lighter. It's called shrinkflation.
Yeah, the incredible shrinking Prime Minister, all right. All the cheap tricks, all politicking all the time. And there's been a fair bit of hubris thrown in too.
We haven't lost a news poll since I've been Prime Minister. We haven't lost a news poll since I've been Prime Minister.
Well, as of this week, as of Monday, he can't say that anymore.
7 months out from the next federal election, the coalition has taken a surprise lead in the polls. The Albanese government is now trailing by 2 points.
The latest news poll with the coalition leading for the first time since the last election.
Yeah, that was just on Monday, and then yesterday we got the news about the $4.3 million beach house. And this was his response.
Of course, I am much better off. As a Prime Minister, I earn a good income. I understand that. I understand that I've been fortunate. But I also know what it's like to struggle. My mum lived in the one public housing that she was born in for all of her 65 years.
Yeah, you could almost hear people around the country groaning. We've heard the public housing story so many times. You can't just keep wheeling it out as an excuse or in lieu of a proper answer. Anthony Albanese is in deep strife as Prime Minister. How can he be taken seriously on the housing crisis anymore? He's broken his promise on mortgage rates and the cost of living. How can he be taken seriously on energy and power prices? He's broken his promise to cut power bills by $275 a year. How can he be taken seriously on foreign affairs or on social cohesion? Australia's approach on Israel is hopeless and confused, and hate preaching at home has gone unpunished. As I asked rhetorically back in May, what is the point of Albo? What's been the point of his prime ministership so far? What is Albanese's plan for the future? Well, apart from spending more time at his beach house, I've got no idea. Do you?